Today on Top Gear Rearview, this is our second time recording this episode. I'm not at all upset about it. Nah, whatever. Let's just do this since it's the second time.
Hello and welcome to Top Gear Rearview. This is Jeff. Brady's on the other side over there. Tonight we are closing out Series 2, Episode 10 of the new Top Gear.
This episode aired on the 20th of July in 2003, and it is the series finale. And as such, they bring in a huge star for their star in a reasonably priced car. Some dude named Alan Davies.
Oh my god. Tonight's segments, we are looking at the TVR 350C, the hilariously expensive VW Phaeton, the kind of pretty but kind of never destined for real production Cadillac 16, an odd little shorty of a challenge with the fastest disabled driver, and an interesting and also hilariously overpriced Overfinch 580S version of a Range Rover.
Lots of overpricedness going on, but not necessarily in this TVR section.
No, that's the funny part. The beginning of these, not overpriced. It's just kind of like the hilarity of the overpricedness just increases through the episode.
I mean, at least with the Overfinch, you get a whole Range Rover. With the Phaeton, you get a Passat.
I don't know, man. We're gonna talk about that Phaeton. I got some cool facts for you.
Okay.
So hold on to your butts. All right, TVR. Brady is a fan of TVRs. Brady, what'd you think of this TVR?
I didn't really like it that much.
It was tame, according to Hammond, and it was, in my opinion, prettier than a lot of TVRs. Kind of because it was tame. It wasn't all googly-eyed.
Yeah, the front was better.
Yeah,
but the back. Did you see the
back was chaos?
Inverted hockey sticks for taillights and just holes everywhere.
I think what happened is they designed the front, and the head of the company was like, "That's awesome. Let's go have some beers." And then they had beers, and then they went back to the factory, and they're like, "It's time to make it a back. Poke some holes in it. Speed hole."
Instead of going home, they just continued designing, and it was a real disaster. Yeah,
we're on a hot streak, boys.
There's like the exhaust holes. Okay, you're gonna need holes for exhaust, I suppose.
Those make sense, yeah.
And then like 16 other holes. It doesn't even look like there looks like there's some sort of rear diffuser down below it. It's not like an aerodynamic thing. I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's such a good diffuser that it also has to suck air from the back, and those are vacuum holes.
Are they adding lightness with this? Then why aren't there holes everywhere?
Maybe they're wheelie holes. I don't know. I got nothing.
Holes. Yeah, it's pretty interesting looking. Like most TVRs, it probably looks like a real hoot to drive. This one's got a 3.6 liter inline six. It's a smaller car than the other ones that we've had. We had I think we looked at the
Valhalla.
Oh yeah, that's right. They called it the Valhalla, and that was it was a V8. But they said its competitors were the Boxster and the Z4, and those are small cars.
Certainly.
Small roadster cars. This isn't a roadster.
No, it's not. But Hammond looked like, proportional in it, which means it's little.
That's right.
It's tiny. He did like it. It seems like, the general consensus was this was not chaos like a lot of other TVRs, but otherwise, an actual like ownable, like daily drivable and fun on the track TVR. So that's nice.
Yeah, Hammond explicitly said almost an everyday car. I think he said it's
Smells like a fiberglass canoe factory in here. It's also loud. Properly loud.
Which is extremely specific.
He must have been on a tour of a fiberglass canoe factory.
Recently, at least.
Recently.
Yeah. So this thing can do 0 to 60 in 4.4. That's quick. It's got 350 horsepower.
It's super light. The thing only weighs 2,600 pounds.
Yeah. You can get up to 175 miles an hour, which is fast.
Yes.
I don't know if that beats the Z4 and the Boxer. I bet probably both of those are limited to 155. But
I'm sure. But that motor is the TVR Speed 6 engine, and that is actually I thought had come from something else. Nope, that's a TVR like in-house motor.
Oh, really? It's an in-house developed block and everything.
Yeah, they've put it in many things: the Tuscan, the Cerbera, the Tamora. This one, obviously, the Python, a bunch of other TVRs. I'm sure you love.
Huh. Yeah, I've said it before. It's, it's the styling of them and everything else about them I kind of like. I like that they're a small manufacturer. I like that they almost explicitly make sports cars. And they look like a real hoot to drive. I don't know how good they are to drive. Like, on a scale from 1 to Miata, they're probably like a 7. And, but, they look like fun. They get the tail out. It's a happy little car.
They got drunk at one point and made TVR V12 Speed 12s out of 2 of these Speed 6s. I don't know what they put them in, but that'd be awesome.
Smashing 2 engines together is kind of a theme for this episode.
It is, and it's kind of a good idea always. So, if you have 2 engines in your garage, doesn't matter the arrangement, just smush them together, see what happens.
Hammond really liked the brakes on this car for whatever reason. He was explicitly calling them out. He said,
It's these brakes, though. Ooh. I mean, I love accelerating. Who doesn't? But for the first time in my life, I am looking forward to braking almost as much.
And I thought to myself, oh, this won't be the last time you want to brake more than you want to accelerate, Hammond.
That's going to be a theme in your life, buddy. It's not always going to go your way.
50% of the cars you see, you're just gonna crash them.
Yeah. So
I mean, we're not too far away from a big crash from him.
No, I believe that's the first one. That's coming up in not too long here.
Exactly.
So they do bring in some competition here in the form of the Noble M12, but not the 2.5 liter from the previous series, the fancy new 3 liter, which Jeremy puts up in what I believe is our first iteration of Top Trumps, at least in this series. Maybe they had some in old Top Gear, but new Top Gear, first time.
Yeah, I think this is in our world, which is the Clarkson, Hammond, May Top Gear, I guess, and Daw. This is the first Top Trumps, and I guess they go back and forth. So, Jeff, I'm going to take the 350C because I love TVR so much, and you take the Noble. So, how fast 0 to 60 do you have?
Oh crap, I didn't write it down. 4.1?
4.1, yep, and mine's 4.4. So that's 1 for Jeff. Yep.
Bingo.
I mean,
what about top speed?
Mine's 175. What's yours?
167.
All right, so that's 1 for Brady.
Even.
All right, how much is yours, Jeff?
47,000 pounds.
Oh, that's a lot. How much was the previous one?
You know what? I'm not sure. I have it in my other notebook. You should have it in front of you on that fancy Top Gear power ranking that we are going to get to here shortly.
Yeah, it's 45,000 pounds was the original one, so only 2,000 pounds more for...
That's not bad.
What we will see is an extremely fast car.
That is a reasonable power tax.
Yeah, so 47 for you. Mine's 38.5, so I win. That's almost like a point and a half, a trump and a half there.
It really is.
But the one that matters, Jeff, as you said, they put them around the track. What time did the Noble do?
1:25.
Which is extremely fast. It was dry, so that holds. I think it was a 1:25 flat, and
yes, it was.
The TVR did a 1:27. So putting those, as Jeff said, into our Top Gear Rearview power rankings. I think these are going to be good. They got low prices. I mean, 47 to 38 is really low, and fast times. But we need a desirability score, Jeff. What do you have for the TVR and the Noble?
The TVR, because I got to agree, the styling never quite stuck with me. I'm going to give that one a 6.
Okay. I dislike them more than you. And I think I've said that a few times now. We'll keep every time a TVR comes in. So I'm going to do a 5. So
okay, that one is a 1:27.5. That's the official time.
Yep, I've got that in here. You said for the last TVR? Oh, look at us. We said 6 and a 5 for the last TVR.
Bingo.
It's interesting, Jeff. Season 1, episode 10, the Valhalla, they said, was $38,500. Pounds. And so was this one.
I don't remember. I think the Valhalla was actually this car. Now that I'm thinking back to it, I'm pretty sure that was what it was. I'm pretty sure they're same.
Okay. Well, that's fun. Well, we're doing very good then. And looks like the TVR, the Stig is mildly consistent. It got an 88 last time, so a 128. This time we got a 127.5, so that's pretty close.
All right.
And then you say for the Noble M12 GTO-3, which is the 3-liter variant, 2,000 pounds more. Say what you give it, and we'll compare it to the last iteration.
I'm going to give that guy an 8. I just love how it looks.
All right, you like 3 liters more than 2.5 liters. 1 point more, apparently.
All right. 1 point for 2,000 pounds.
And I'm going to say a 7. Again, the Nobles, it's just not quite there yet. I like everything about it, but I feel like it might be a cost thing. I don't know. It is relatively cheap, but I feel like they're holding back. I feel like that car could be a lot better. I guess in my mind, I have a much, much later Noble in my mind as what it can do. It's like a 200 mile an hour, almost hypercar. So I'm going to give it a 7, and that's what I gave it last time. So we're doing pretty good, Jeff.
Even.
We're doing pretty good. That being said, because of the blazing fast time that Noble got, it came in at 117.8 on the power rankings, which is good enough for first overall.
Whoa.
This is our top car, just ahead of the Porsche 911 Turbo, and behind nothing. It is behind none. And that time is really fast. 125 is only 2 seconds off of the Zonda.
And that's 47,000 pounds versus what was the Zonda? 375?
345 for the Zonda. 310 for the Zonda and 354 for the Koenigsegg. And it was about a second off of both of those.
And that's like 8 times as much money.
And for 1 second faster. And then the TVR did pretty good, again, because it's cheap and fast. It came in 4th with a 109.65. 4th is just behind the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8 and just ahead of the WRX STI. Now, with how this fits, we're always looking at how our power rankings work. Would you take this over a Subaru WRX STI?
I think so.
You would take the TVR over an STI?
I've had a WRX. Yeah, I'm good.
Well, I think I would take both the Mitsubishi and the Subaru over the TVR. So maybe
you're breaking our metrics. Come on,
that's not too bad. Oh, sorry. The Noble M12, the original Noble, is tied for 5th, so it's actually just ahead of the Subaru and the original Noble.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's fun. That's a good one. I am happy about the power rankings on this one. It definitely shows that price really matters, and when you go fast and are cheap, you go up on the top.
Surprisingly enough, that's a good combo.
Exactly.
Except everyone's British. But anyway.
Yep. So I think we came out even on the top trumps, Jeff. But the Noble looks better, so you win.
Woo! I'm pretty sure what they had in real life there was just playing cards.
It looked like the back of like a bicycle deck of cards,
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, we need something to put in our hands. Jeremy doesn't know what to do with his hands. Puts them by his face. On to the news?
On to the news.
All right. Well, James starts out with a pretty aggressive hatred of the old Beetle.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, 2003 was the last year they stopped making like the original, almost like the 60s, 50s version of the Beetle. Just what you think of as like the love bug. Went all the way to 2003.
Yeah, that is...
they were already making the new Beetle.
Oh, yeah, but for like a couple years at that point. So, it's, that car, the design was finalized for that in 1938.
Oh.
So, that is an insane run. 2003, so we're talking 65 years.
Well, James says that it's...
That's the first thing. It's a rubbish car. Secondly, it was a scandal. Okay, that car was stolen from a Czech bloke called Ledwinka, I think, by Hitler and his henchmen. They put it into production. They stole money off the German people to build it and to build a factory. They never got a car. Instead, they used the factory and slaved Russian labour from the Eastern Front to build V1 bombs.
So you can't blame the poor little Herbie.
And I haven't finished yet.
Oh, here we go.
In the factory, Russian slave labour built V1 flying bombs, one of which landed where my house now stands.
That is the most convoluted reason for
There's
hating...
more.
Oh, no.
Does anybody own a Beetle?
No,
Yes.
nobody's going to...
Right. Are you happy driving around in a mass murderer's personal biff about?
Yeah. So...
Harsh words, strong words from a strong man. Captain Slow.
Yes. But, enough of that. Let's talk about Goodwood. Brady, are you familiar with Goodwood?
I am not as familiar with Goodwood Festival Speed as I should be. I think there's a hill climb, right?
That's kind of the main event.
Okay.
So it was, at this point, this has been around for about 10 years. And and they, it was a dude whose name was Lord March. And he really wanted to bring back motor racing to the Goodwood circuit, but didn't have a permit. So he just said, "Hey, let's race on my property. Like, let's just go have some fun on the property and do a hill climb." So, It was pretty popular, and it remained. It started in 1993, and every year keeps going as of now to today.
Okay.
So it's a 3-day event. Actually, I believe it's a 4-day event now. It's a weekend all the way back to a Thursday. Yeah, and as Brady said, the hill climb's kind of the main event. It's a pretty steep hill, average gradient of just shy of 5%. And yeah, they've got some monsters. They had to ban Formula One cars from doing it because they were too fast and dangerous. But at this point, they were also doing a soapbox challenge, which is basically a race unpowered back down that hill climb. That didn't last long.
I'm glad someone didn't have to push those things up the hill.
No. Frequent accidents were cited as part of the reason it got nixed.
I mean, isn't that kind of the point of a soapbox derby? You get a bunch of drunk assholes, put them in the most rickety vehicles you've ever seen in your life, and shove them down a hill.
This is a little different because this was actually like Bentley and McLaren put in entries to these, so it's not so much rickety junk as like hilariously overpriced engineless cars.
Leave it to the British to do a fancy posh version of a soapbox derby.
I know, no love. They have the supercar run. They have a couple other items, but it's a pretty cool event all around. In this case, they were talking about JK, who this is fresh off his throttling by one Jody Kidd. So somebody in this, I watching this episode, it made me cringe a little bit. He brought his brand new Enzo, parked it in the grass, got it a little dusty, and somebody wrote in the dust, "Jody was faster," which is like a double bunch.
I know, right?
Like, I mean, you're slow, and I hate your paint.
Well, the slow thing, that's fine, but writing in dust on someone's obviously unbelievably expensive Enzo. Was it in the paint or was it in the glass?
It was in the paint. It was on the hood.
Oh my god! What the hell were you thinking?
Just not nice.
Oh man, maybe you can put a screen grab of that in the show notes.
I'll see what I can find. Yeah. One other tidbit on this guy. So every year since 1997, they have a central display, which is in the lawn in front of the Goodwood house, and basically they give these to different marques, different years. So the Ferrari, Porsche, Audi, Jaguar, those are some of the early ones. In 2017, it was a tribute to Bernie Ecclestone, because I believe that was right around the time that he stepped down or came out of. I don't know if he's still in Formula One. I don't follow it well enough. But
we'll call it step down. But what really happened is he sold Formula One for an ungodly amount of money.
Okay, he got booted for lots of money by himself. Anyway, 2003 was Ford, and they had a tribute to the Ford GT40, which is a nice little teaser at our next episode, Series 3, Episode 1, where we look at the new Ford GT.
And also in real time to the latest episode of the Grand Tour, the Amazon series, where they look at the new Ford GT.
It's just a good couple weeks.
It is. It's not too bad. A couple of those in a row.
Indeed. So, well, that's about all I got for the news. Should we get on to this beast of a VW?
If you want to call it that. I mean, I don't know if I'd be as audacious to call a Phaeton a beast.
Dude, it comes with a W12.
Yeah, well, so do... Yeah, I guess it... Never mind.
Yeah.
There's not much that does. So does a Bentley Continental. But Bentley Continentals have... those are beasts. Those count as beasts, so...
Yeah. So this, as an engineer, I have to say, this is it's a very entertaining car. As a petrolhead, it's a very dumb car.
I never quite understood the Phaeton. I never I mean, they gave an explanation of why they did it as kind of a swan song to their former stepping out CEO, and was he also the chairman? I'm not sure. Whatever. The head of Volkswagen was stepping out, and he wanted to make a luxury car. Now I thought, listening to this, I'm like, no, that's not why they did it. That is not why big companies don't do crap if it doesn't affect the bottom line. They made a luxury car because they thought there was a spot for it.
There may be. It was getting some competition in the German market, kind of in the UK market, I believe, as well, with the Mercedes A-Class. But yeah, they did call it Ferdinand Pike. I don't know how to say his last name. Piek. His swan song. Did you see a cost on development of this car?
No, I did not.
1.3 billion.
Well, I mean, what, seasons ago, we had Ford develop the chassis, and it cost
Yeah.
they saved like $3 billion on just
But that's
the chassis.
Liana chassis. That's like, we're going to make 3 billion of these cars. This is the VW Phaeton, of which I think they made about 4,000.
Well, I mean, the Phaeton, it's just an A8.
Wait, there's a little more to it, but they actually did parlay that, I think, nicely and kind of use that as for some other fairly better cars, as we will see shortly.
Yeah.
So they said it was, the Phaeton. It went towards other things like the Continental GT and whatnot. So
This is a 68,000-pound luxury Passat that can come with. I mean, did you see the range of engines this thing can come with?
Just too many.
Like how many
of them?
How many liters you want? Just say a number between 3 and 6. We got them all. We have a 3.2.
We got one of them. Yeah.
We got 3.6. We got a 4.2. We got a 6 liter. We want a 5? Yeah, we throw in a V10 diesel. It's just ludicrous for a car that was made for 13 years.
They should make you throw a dart at a dartboard to choose your engine.
Yes, W12.
Bullseye W12.
Oh, double one.
3.2 liter V6. The lore around this car is that Ferdinand had 10 characteristics or basically demands for this car, and upon hearing it, half the engineering team just quit on the spot because they were like, that's not possible. I searched high and low to try to find this list of 10. It's not public knowledge. Even what is it now? Probably about 15 years later. I could find a few. So the one that Jeremy points out is the basically being able to drive all day at 186 miles an hour, which is 300 kilometers per hour because this is all in kilometers, at 120 Fahrenheit ambient temperature, 50 C, and the AC will keep the inside at a nice comfortable 71.6 degrees, 22 C, which is, impressive.
I suppose the air conditioning
Car's limited to 155.
you can air conditioning works. Cool.
Yeah, well, did you see the air conditioning? It's kind of neat. It's got diffusers and cool stuff, so you don't actually get blasted with cold air. It kind of wafts around you.
Is that the thing that he brought down in front of the vents in the front?
Uh-huh.
They called it a radiator?
It was not explained well in there, but that's how it works. Is it's basically there's quite a complex system of, let me see, I think it's 25 different servo motors that... It's just, they create 4 distinct microclimates for each of the passengers of between 64 and 82 degrees inside the car without blasting you right in the face. And they adjust for the orientation of the car in relation to the sun, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's got, 25 motors. I wonder how many sensors it has to do that sort of thing.
Way too many. It has, the W12 version has 140 buttons and knobs in it.
Oh, my God.
It's too many.
That's too many buttons and knobs, VW. Come on, son. Come on, son.
I got some other... So they showed the staged headlight washers, which were neat. That was basically squirt one, squirt the other, whatever. Your headlights never get that dirty. It's not like you're rock crawling in this thing.
There's no point to headlight washers. It doesn't do anything. What do you're driving through so much snow that it's building up on your car? They get out and wipe it off.
We should buy a Phaeton and go do the Gambler 500 with it.
We should buy a Phaeton for the Gambler. Well, you know what, Jeff? We'd be able to see out the front.
That's true. The other one, so the wipers, which is interesting. The first kind of fancy thing is the wipers. When you turn them on, they'll go 3 times. When you do the just auto wipe thing, they'll go 3 times, pause for a few seconds, and do one last sweep to pick up any leftover fluids, which is something that's actually becoming common. Our Fords do that. But the neater thing that I found is when the wipers come to rest, they adjust their resting angle every other time to help prevent premature wiper blade wear.
Oh my God, that's so complex.
It's so
for no
German.
Reason. Oh my
so
God.
German.
Hey, we got some engineering people sitting over here, and they don't have anything to do. They already solved all your problems.
Make more problems.
Yeah, exactly. Wipers? I don't know. Figure something out there. You got it, bud.
Okay, a couple more crazy things for you. What's the car that explodes? Is it the Pinto? It's unsafe at any speed?
The Corvair is unsafe at any speed.
Corvair.
But the Pinto does explode.
Okay, they all explode. You gave them the right impetus, but this one has something in common with that, which is there are 2 batteries in the trunk, one for starting, the other is for accessories, and they can kind of share each other if one dies. But If the car is in a crash and one or more airbag is deployed, there's an explosive charge that'll detonate and disconnect the starter battery.
I've seen that in BMWs.
I think it's a thing, but I read that and I was like, what? That seems anti-safe.
Yeah,
You
there's
crash. Let me blow something up.
shoot some stuff. Yeah, no, it's I went and was looking at a BMW, a used one with my friend, and the guy explained it to us because the battery's in the back for weight distribution. It's like a 3 Series or something like that, and the battery's in the back underneath a panel in the trunk. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Is that for weight distribution? And they go, yeah, but check this out. It explodes. He said, it blows up if you crash. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
That seems counterintuitive.
That's not what you want. So, yeah, it's just to disconnect it so you don't keep punching, if you have a head-on collision, you don't want to just keep pushing amps forward. I'm like, man,
No.
all of this would be solved by just putting it in the front.
Yeah, but there's no room. There's a W12 under the hood, Brady.
Not in that BMW.
True.
You could fit it in the front when it has this 3.2. I don't understand if it has a 3.2 liter or a 6 liter W12. How awful is that 3.2 liter in this boat of a car? Like, how much of a dog is it? It's probably pretty slow.
It probably is.
You get terrible gas mileage because you just have to mash it. You have to
You're always what did he say?
flattening
it.
You're always flattening it, as James May says.
Yes, we would. Yeah. A couple more just quick things for you. Let's see what do we got. The glass over the gauges is specifically anti-glare. It is 1/16 of the normal reflectivity of instrument panel glass, so it's quicker and easier to read, which is weird. Double paned windows, very small panel gaps to get everything quiet. Active engine vibration dampeners in the motor mounts, which is bonkers. And along that line, one of the nerdiest things that I like is this thing has a torsional rigidity of 37,000 Newton meters per degree.
I mean, I'm an engineer, and I went and did a lot of metric stuff, but I literally have no idea how many Newton meters is equal to a foot-pound, and even then, I can't necessarily quantify a foot-pound unless it's on my torque wrench.
Luckily, I have some at least comparison numbers for you.
Okay.
So a Gallardo is only 23,000 Newton meters per degree. This guy is actually third in the list I've found of presumably production road cars behind the Phantom and the Veyron. So the Phantom's, it makes sense. Phantom is 40.5, Veyron is 60. All same company, but yeah, it's up there, and I think that really does. They were talking about how it's just silent and quiet, and no buzzes, no rattles, no nothing.
Smooth.
That's part of where it comes from.
I have to say, it looks like a smooth car. One thing that I will say, Jeff, is one of our friendly YouTube people, Mr. Regular, loves the Phaeton.
I understand it a little more. He's a nerd, and I'm a nerd, and I can get that.
He chalks it up as the best car he's ever driven. And he drove a V8 version. He drove the 4.2 liter V8 here in America. But he just loved everything about it. How smooth, how, I guess, probably rigid. But yeah, Mr. Regular loves the Phaeton.
Well, I think, there's a lot to love until anything breaks, and then you're just out of money. So,
yeah.
All my money has belonged to VW.
There's nothing like an unbelievably expensive Passat, really. I mean, it just warms the cockles.
It does. They do parlay this segment into a perhaps better car that we enjoy more, which is one Continental GT.
Yeah, where I don't feel like the Phaeton has a market that it really fits into. Because, 68,000 pounds is a lot of money, and I feel like you'd buy a more established vehicle in that market.
Like an A8?
Like it, but with a different company, and probably for a little less. But the Bentley Continental is kind of in, like, this weird class of its own, It's a super powerful, super fast, luxurious, 160,000 pound car.
Well, I have 120.
Okay, 120.
Yeah, I'd see this. It's a Grand Tourer with a big old motor under the hood. It's not. It's definitely maybe a step down from the big Ferrari V12 Grand Tours, and like the nicer Astons. But I think that's kind of the segment it falls in. When you get up there, it's all just kind of chaos. But.
Yeah, but even like a Ferrari Grand Tour always has some amount of like the 575 Maranello always has some amount of racing inbred into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has tight suspension, but you can loosen it up. And it's got a V12, and it's really finely tuned, and this, that, and the other. And it looks like it's not quite a Rolls Royce. It's not quite a Ferrari. This Continental kind of fits in a weird spot, I feel.
I would agree. It's
but
not,
that being said,
really have a home.
like it way more than the Phaeton, even though it's like double the price.
Well, yeah, I understand that. It's it looks like there was a lot in there, a lot of Phaeton in there in terms of switchgear and whatnot. But yeah, I can see your point.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer, Jeff. Do you know who Alan Davies is?
No effing clue.
No effing clue. I know Alan Davies, and I enjoyed Alan Davies. I know him from one of the infamous British panel shows. This one was QI. It was kind of a trivia, historical, not really current events, but historical sort of panel show. And it was just always stocked with comedians. I mean, Stephen Fry's a comedian. And they would just, a panel show, they just jibber jabber about whatever they're talking about. And on this one, they have a few regular guests and a few kind of rotating guests. And Alan Davies was a regular guest on QI, and I thought he was hilarious.
All right.
That being said, this interview was even dry by British standards.
It was pretty dry. It had its high points. I mean, they were talking a little bit about some nitroglycerin in an MX-5, which was like, cool, you're not a car guy.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. It was an entertaining story. They did say one thing which I thought was reminiscent of what I've actually heard from some autocrossers locally here, which is you're not a proper petrolhead until you've owned an Alfa Romeo, which makes me think I may never be a proper petrolhead.
Yeah, I probably never will either.
I just don't want one.
Yeah, he had a 147. He also had a bunch of Chevy Cavaliers. So,
I think we determined that these are not Chevy Cavaliers. They're some weirdo, wackadoo British Cavalier.
Vauxhall Cavalier, which is something else entirely.
Yup.
But yeah, I guess there's not much to say about Mr. Davies. He's a stand-up comedian at heart and does a lot of acting and comedy shows now, probably all over the BBC and all the British channels. But he went out and did a 154, which is okay.
Pretty average. High five.
Right in the middle, Mr. Davies.
Carry on.
Mr. Davies did either in between a 153 and a 155. No, so that would be 154 then.
Yes. Watch the episode to understand that joke.
You should watch all of these episodes as we're going through them. That's a fun thing to do. You can catch all of them on Amazon Video, and if you're a Prime member, they're free.
Just seamless segues.
This podcast is in no way affiliated with Amazon. It's just where you can watch them. You don't have to go through some questionable links to get to them like we had to do for season 1.
Oh, the dark web. Yes, but I do keep a link in the show notes to the season of that episode. So if you need a quick way to get there, open up those show notes. Boop, you're there. So if you're a Prime member, those are all free for the time being. I think up to season 17. So we'll be here for a few years. So how about that gigantic Cadillac?
I remember this when it came out as a concept car.
Oh, yeah.
I suppose in the early 2000s is when it came out. And all the talk was about this V16 under the hood.
It's so big.
Oh, my God. The car is like 5.2 meters long. I mean, it's not Maybach long. I guess long Maybach long, but it's short Maybach long.
Yeah.
And almost all of that is hood.
Yeah, it's just shy of 19 feet long.
Oh, man. That's so big.
It's longer than my van by a good margin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of hood. I don't know why they say two different displacements. James starts by saying 13.5. It's actually a 13.6, and he actually does say 13.6 later. But wow, that's big. That's an 830 cubic inch motor.
Yeah, this thing came out, and there was a lot of speculation about it actually going into production, back and forth. But unfortunately for all of us, it never did go into production, full production. There were a couple other concept cars, Jeff, that you pointed to me throughout the week.
Yeah, the El Mirage and the CL are kind of follow-ups later in life. One is a drop top, I believe that's the CL, and the El Mirage is the larger version. They're both similar, a 4-seater, but just gigantic, and They're smaller motors, to be fair. They never went quite as crazy as this 13.6 liter. But the interesting thing about this is it definitely, I mean, given it did not make it into production, it kind of ushered in some new design language for Cadillac.
I think Cadillac really turned a corner. Early 2000s, they went through a full overhaul. I mean, you remember the mid 90s Cadillacs, what was that small little Cadillac that looked like
The Catera?
Yeah, which was literally just a Buick Regal.
Oh my God! Every time I see one of those, I barf a little.
So that's what they were, and they appropriately went through an overhaul with their styling and their marketing. All they did was make it look nicer and throw Led Zeppelin in the ad, and all of a sudden, Cadillac's back in the game.
Boom.
It's all it takes, just a little Led Zeppelin, man. Just gotta get the lead out. But you're right, this car, I'm not sure how far down the design line they were when they designed this one. Presumably it took at least a little bit of time to make this concept car. But the styling cues from this have kind of filtered the way and bred their way into almost every Cadillac, I guess, besides the Escalade, and probably even then with the grille.
Yeah, you look at the newer Escalades, you look at the headlights on that thing, and it's like, that is not too dissimilar.
All right, so even the Escalade, the front end shape, the grille shape, the headlight shape, the fender shape are all really getting in there. As well as kind of upping the displacement and the power and really turning a couple Cadillacs into monsters.
You look at like the Cadillac XLR, and honestly, it's kind of a little bitty 16. I mean, it's not as big of a motor. It's a V8, but the dimensions and the proportions, like everything, kind of it's got a lot of cues.
Yes, for sure. God, I just wish they put that V16 into something for real. Oh,
I know.
so
They put the XLR-V, they made the XLR-V, which is a supercharged 4.4 liter V8, which was 443 horsepower. So it was no slouch. Now, given this V16 was putting out about 1,000 horsepower, so, I mean, slouch is all relative.
1,000 horsepower and at least 1,000 foot-pounds of torque.
And we broke the dyno torques.
How many torques does it have? I don't know, at least 1,000.
So many.
We mentioned this earlier in the episode. James was driving this around, and he's talking about the cylinder deactivation system, which I did a little research on. And while it's been touted for Cadillac, like North Star engines and stuff, I'm not exactly sure how broad the cylinder deactivation is. One thing I read is that it's just for like limp home mode. Is like if the engine's overheating, it'll deactivate some cylinders. And it's like, well, that's really lame if you're marketing it as that. But
it's a safety function.
Yeah, you can run on 4, 8, or 16 cylinders in this car. 4 if you're just cruising down the highway, don't need to accelerate. 8 if you're about to pass someone, and all 16 if you're going to quote unquote flatten it, as something the Americans say. Jeff, have you ever said flatten it?
I've said mat it. That's as close as I can get.
You've said mat it? I haven't even said that.
I've said floor it more times than I can count.
Floor it.
Mat it.
Yeah, we don't say flatten. We say floor.
Come on, James.
Yeah, or step on it.
Yeah.
Or a little more.
Depending on what it was, in theory, it would flatten it. But if it was like a bug. I was laughing to myself over here thinking, with that cylinder deactivation, it can run on 6, 8, or 12 cylinders. Or was it 4, 8, or 12?
I thought it was 4, but it could be.
I think it was 4, 8, or 12 to help out. And I was thinking, like, there's probably some unique architecture behind that, but it'd be funny to see this in the Touareg or the Phaeton, the crazy one from VW, because with the German, like, if we're gonna pay that much attention to like not wearing out our wiper blades, I gotta imagine they just have some random algorithm like choosing cylinders. So it's not like you're just running the back 4 or the front 4. It's like you're just all over the place. Like 1, 7, 3, 15, 15 again.
15, 15, 15, 15.
I don't know how random this is, but
sometimes you're gonna get a string of like 5 heads in a row. You flip the coin, it just happens.
Yeah, eventually that monkey's gonna write Shakespeare. But that's about all I got for this guy. It's been touted for potential production, or potentially maybe a scaled down version called the ULS or the XLS with a smaller V8 or V12 has kind of been rumored since 2005. Didn't happen.
I feel like if an American company was going to tray to do like a Veyron sort of thing, it might be Cadillac with a V16.
It might be. Yeah, I
But
can see them.
I don't see that in the future. I haven't heard anything about it. I feel like they might want to leak that out everywhere they know. All my contacts at GM and Cadillac haven't told me anything, so they're keeping it.
I'll ask my buddies, but probably not.
So let's get to the challenge of this.
This was an interesting one.
If you look at the Wikipedia, which is where we kind of get our overview and the air dates and stuff like that, it says the challenge of this episode was a Land Rover reliability challenge.
That's sort of in the end where they talk about it, and they're like, one thing broke, we'll kill your bonsai. But
that isn't. but they didn't do anything.
They just looked at it.
Do anything.
They showed what broke.
This is kind of the challenge. This is another one, Jeff, in the long line of what is the fastest X
blank. Yeah.
Sci-fi character or religion or a political party. And this one is they got a group of I think probably just paraplegics, disabled people.
Yeah.
And got them in a specially fitted 911 and put it around the track, as we like to say.
It was a pretty quick segment. I mean, there wasn't too much to say. It was kind of interesting. Hammond is talking to one of them about the sort of advantages of having the hand controls, because gas and brake and everything, you're already holding onto the steering wheel. They're right there. So I can see the point in that a little bit. But they were also talking, some of them had, some issues with the back muscles that come with any number of injury or malady that would put you in a wheelchair. So I think some of them they were better able to kind of support themselves in the seat. So it was, I don't know, it wasn't really a good challenge because it wasn't particularly fair. It was just kind of all over the place. And surprisingly enough, the times show it.
Yeah, exactly. We talked a couple episodes ago about the GM Highwire and how having all the controls on the steering wheel is just going to be difficult because you're asking your hands to do too much. And in this case, they don't have a choice. But I think there are a few of these times were influenced by the fact that braking, accelerating, and turning all at the same time, and it's just a little too much to do, and they spun it off a bit. So let's go through the people and their times, Jeff, and then we also were given the cars they normally drive, and so we'll give you those as well. But why don't you start us off?
So, interestingly enough, Hammond says in 6th place, which is weird because I'm pretty sure there were only 5 drivers, but it made me question. Yeah, with the 220, it was Peter.
Peter drives the VW Golf VR6, so a relatively fast car.
Yeah.
In 5th place was...
4th place.
Yeah, sorry. In 4th place, exactly, Hammond, was Tim Proctor with a 158.8. He drives a Vauxhall Estate 1.6, so not a fast car.
Scorcher. In 3rd place was Rob with a 155.6.
And he drives a Supra, bro.
Super twin turbo, bro.
He drives a full-on Supra.
2JZ, bro.
In the runners-up position, Colin Jones with a 154.8. So we've gone from 220 to 3 people now in the 150s. Mm-hmm. It's still a 911, so they're not really going terribly fast. It was a little hairy out there for some of them. But sorry, Colin Jones drives a Westfield V8, which is
awesome,
fast car.
That guy's a badass. Mm-hmm. And our winner with a pretty good jump from number 2 is Lee with a 147.
Yeah, he was like 8 seconds
Almost
ahead.
8 seconds faster.
Yeah. He drives a Jeep Cherokee, so apparently he learned how to drive fast somewhere else. I'm not sure.
I guess so. I don't know. Related to that, talking about the back muscles and whatnot, I think they were kind of saying he did actually have more control and was able to stay more upright, which maybe that helped. He was a bigger guy, but yep, that was about it for that challenge. So these hopefully will start going by the wayside here.
Yeah, I can't imagine how difficult it is to drive a race car fast using all the controls with your hands. That seems too hard.
Yeah, I mean, even with like a really supportive race seat, that's just a lot to do.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, we don't have, I don't think, so many of these challenges coming up. We got other fun things like jumping Volvo 240s and trying to kill a Toyota Hilux. So good things.
That's when they really start.
The Hilux is that is definitely kind of the genesis of a proper challenge.
All right, Jeff, let's talk about this ridiculously stupid Range Rover.
It's just so stupid.
It's stupid. The Overfinch, stupid. All right.
I don't get it. But 580S, which is apparently they had made a previous one with a BMW 5.7 liter. This one they tamed it down a bit and they kind of retuned the 5 liter with what James calls a ridiculously expensive crankshaft.
Okay.
Whatever that means. I don't know what it means. It's just what he said.
So that must come into the $45,000 on top of pounds, on top of the 60,000 pounds it costs to get the Range Rover. This is
like a 17,000 pound crankshaft.
This is a 105,000 pound car. Ugh, brutal.
Yeah, 380 horsepower, which is not bad, but it's still a Range Rover. Yeah.
And they replaced the badges with like the Overfinch badges. I feel like that's when people like replace the lettering and the mark on the back of their car with like their name, like Sheila's Toyota. It's like,
good job, Sheila.
way to go with that.
I question your financial choices, Sheila.
Probably could have saved some money on those letters and upgraded your Matrix to a Camry.
Dude, Matrices are awesome.
Matrices are not. Matrices are the Pontiac whatevers. That's all.
Pontiac vibe. You get a Matrix XRS though, not a bad car.
Anyway, car.
I'm still more interested in the stupid Range Rover. Jeremy likes it because surprisingly he likes Range Rovers. He likes it to a degree, and then he bitches about the no steering or suspension work because it's a Range Rover, and he does like the rear jump seat, which I can respect a rear jump seat.
Rear jump seats are cool.
Yeah,
it's not wood paneled station wagon rear jump seat cool, but it's not too bad.
So you don't get to just stink eye. Your kids don't get a stink eye. The drivers behind you, they gotta like look at him and be like, "We make more money than you already.
We're richer than you."
Yeah. He does a drag race against an SLK 320 where he's off road.
Yeah,
because he's just next to the track in presumably grass.
Relatively smooth, just off the tarmac airport grass.
Yep, and he wins. I guess.
I guess that's good. I suppose if you're gonna go drag racing in your Range Rover.
Yeah. And then they just commit a pretty terrible sin and put it around the track.
They put it around the track, Jeff. I can't believe it. It's awful. It's terrible. Let's talk about it. As we said, this is a 105,000 pound Range Rover.
I do want to mention one thing on this crazy lap. If you watch during the in-car shot around the hammerhead, the Stig does something to the shifter. I was like, what did you do? It's an automatic.
He could be forcing it down. It could have like the Tiptronic or something,
He
right?
may be. That has to be it because later they show in-car again and it's a shift in-car and he doesn't touch anything.
He must be forcing a shift down
Just
for braking.
Slamming it to third or second or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, yes, he puts it around the track. It is pretty sopping wet out there. I think it just gets a straight W though, and it did a 144. Oof, real bad. That's a 140.
104 seconds.
That's a 140 after the deduction for the wet. But we need to put some desirability rankings, I suppose, on this. You can see, you can hear my enthusiasm about putting this on our power rankings.
Yeah, I think they do at a much later time an autobiography version, which is the super fancy version, but is like an in-house made one, and I believe it comes with like a whiskey cabinet in the back and all this other cool stuff, like places to put your guns and stuff. Which jumpsuits are cool. Whiskey cabinet beats jumpsuits, and would have gotten a little higher score out of me.
So what you gonna give it?
I'm gonna give it 2.
You're gonna give it 2. I'm gonna give it a 1. I think this thing is stupid. Overfinch, you're just stupid as hell.
Leroy, you were just stupid as hell.
At least I have chicken.
I gotta imagine it's gonna be pretty close to the back.
Yeah, this got a 70. 7-0. It is
7.
0.5 points ahead of last place, which is the Suzuki Liana. It is in second to last place.
What's the price on the Liana?
The Liana is $9,995.
Would you take 10.5 Lianas instead of this? Does it matter which half? Like front half, back half, left half, right half?
It really doesn't. I would obviously you would take front half.
Yeah, what if you could get just take off the doors, the hood, the trunk, the wheels, all the glass, and then you get that.
I mean, the most important half is the ones with all the stuff in it. You take the front half. What are you missing when you get the back? Back seat, one axle.
Tires. If you watch Top Gear US, maybe we'll someday do that one. There is an episode where Tanner drives around literally in only the front half of a car.
Yeah. It's I mean, so you get 10 cars and you get one of those for the price plus one half-car race car?
Yeah. I know.
I don't know. I gave them both a 1.
Yeah.
You liked the Liana more than you liked this, by the way.
I give that about 3.
You did.
All right. I don't hate the Liana. Slow car fast, man.
There you go. All right, so that is real bad. After the deduction, it is the second slowest time, so that's what's hurting it. No car has gone over the 100-second mark. It did exactly 100. The next closest is the Wildcat
Bowler Wildcat.
The Bowler Wildcat. It did a 139.4, and
that's actually surprisingly close.
The Bentley Arnage T did a 136.8.
Oof.
Nothing else is very close.
No. He did off-road it a bit. It would have been cool to see the same lap with the Wildcat going off-road. Wonder how it would have done just next to the track.
I don't know. It probably wouldn't have done better. But
no, for sure not. But it would have been more interesting.
That's for sure.
So there was some bonus stuff at the end of this episode.
Yeah, this is the end of the series for him, and I think they're trying to jam in some segments that they paid money to produce.
With the Broken Biscuits segment.
Yeah, exactly. It turns out that they decided it was a good idea to take a couple of their fastest religious leaders.
Yeah, the Vicar and the Rastafarian.
Yeah, the Rastafarian was by far the fastest of all of them.
Yeah.
He sailed away with the fastest speed on that one, but they went and did like an endurance race, like an actual endurance race
in 2 CVs, which is extra awesome.
Yeah,
and there was
wait, hang on, let's talk about it's a dedicated 2 CV series.
It's 2 CV stock racing.
Oh my god, it's just the best
like
thing
NASCAR,
ever.
but so much cooler.
NASCAR, but in like Edsels.
Slow car fast, etc.
It was the Rastafarian, the Vicar from the first religious, the winner of that one. Mr. Hammond was in there, and then they said a real race car driver. Jeff, do you know who that was?
He looked a little familiar, I gotta say.
It was Ben Collins, who I don't know if we'll see him again. I'm not sure. But just let you know that it was Ben Collins.
I think he died in that race.
No one heard anything from him for like 17 years. So
it was weird. Yeah,
it's
I don't know
real
what happened
weird
with him.
So yeah, that was just a brief thing. They essentially focused on the excuses Hammond was making, which, as you will, if you're a race car driver.
Yep.
Yeah, you never did anything wrong. Everything wrong happened to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer that wasn't a real segment, because I could have, I'd happily swap that out for at least one of these.
Stupid Overfinch.
They did the challenge in Wikipedia was Land Rover reliability, and sure enough, they were like, "Here's a Land Rover. It's mostly reliable except for the switch that goes up and down. This makes the steering wheel go up and down." Died. So instead of killing the designer's dog, they stole his bonsai and chopped it in half.
I guess we should mention that this is a callback to a previous episode.
It is,
where they gave it a rave review, the new Range Rover. And they were talking about how everything is going to go wrong with it. And what they did is they called up a Range Rover or Land Rover and said, is something to go wrong with this one? If someone does in the next 6 months, then I will kill your dog. And this is checking in, I suppose. And one thing broke.
But it wasn't enough to be dog murderish.
No, so they just chopped their bonsai tree in half.
Yep.
And that does it for us for Series 2 of Top Gear UK. We appreciate everyone listening and following along, if you will, or if you are on the episodes. We're having a ton of fun making this, so we appreciate everyone who listens. You can follow us at facebook.com/Top Gear Rearview. We like to post up the Top Gear Power Rankings there, as well as a bunch of other car stuff that we have. And that's a great place to get in touch with us if you'd like to talk with us or chat, or give us maybe your top 5 worst cars of all time. We're still looking for more of those. Or you can just send us an email to topgearrearview@gmail.com.
Yes, and Brady also does put these up on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube at just searching, I don't think we have the channel yet, but if you search Top Gear Rearview, you'll find us on there. The episodes go up usually a couple days after the live podcast ones, and if that's an easier way for you to listen at work or whatnot, they are available. And if you're enjoying this, please, we love it if you share it with a friend. That's a great recommendation, and we can always appreciate and love the ratings and reviews on iTunes. Those kind of help us stay up in the rankings there, and someday maybe we'll be featured or something amazing like that. So
Well, we appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, go ahead and tell a friend about it. We're starting Series 3 next week. We release every week, every Friday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And it'd be really cool to get more people involved with Top Gear Rearview. So we appreciate that if you guys start spreading the word.
Yeah. I believe that does it for Series 2. So on that note, we will see you guys back next week for Series 3.